BRICS. There is a BRICS meeting, an annual meeting that's going on, began yesterday. The BRICS meeting, and there's all kinds of far-fetched rumors about the BRICS meeting. But for those of you not familiar, BRICS is the acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It was coined many years ago, I want to say by what was it, J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs? Somebody had coined it. It was pretty cute at the time. Well, anyway, so BRICS, the BRICS leaders have all converged for a 3-day summit this week in South Africa. So South Africa is hosting the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, and then you also have the Indian Prime Minister, Prime Minister Modi, is there. So they're all in South Africa. The person who's not there, the notable exception, of course, Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, who can't leave Russia because he has an international arrest warrant. So if he leaves the country, he'll probably end up behind bars because of the war crimes in Ukraine. So he sent his foreign minister in his place. Well, anyway, the BRICS nations, they account for more than 25% of the global economy, but there's a tremendous amount of angst in between the countries. There's a tremendous amount of angst over political situations, security situations, economic situations, and so for this reason, it may look good on the outside as far as looking kind of showing a united front, but when you really break it apart, you'll find out that there's not as much solidarity there as one might think, and there has been a lot of speculation, typically. From what I've seen coming from Russian sources, and usually on social media, which tend to go together, that there's going to be a gold-backed currency out of this meeting that's going to be announced, or there's going to be some sort of trade settlement token that's going to come out of this meeting, and that it's going to be the death knell for the dollar. Well, as you well know, I do believe that the dollar is going to no longer be the global reserve currency, very likely by, in the next couple of decades. I mean, I certainly see that the United States is receding in its share of global GDP. It's receding in its, in international respect. Countries certainly don't respect the United States the way they have in the past. And the United States, of course, its military industrial complex has created a lot of problems and complications and created a lot of enemies around the world. And so, too, the dollar hegemony, the hegemonic approach that the United States has taken with its economy has caused all kinds of ill intent or ill feelings from other countries. And so, obviously, many of these countries do want to hasten the removal of the dollar standard in a way that's responsible, so that they can have what they would call a more equitable global economy that's not based upon a single currency the way we currently have it now. The problem is that many times people who hear about this, they say, well, that means that the dollar is going to go away tomorrow and the BRICS are going to release a gold-backed currency and then it'll be game over for the dollar starting next week. Okay, well, that's completely not true. And I don't want to name names in the world of finance and in the world of financial newsletters, but there are certain repeat offenders of these rumors that just continue and continue and continue and continue, like a dripping faucet. Right now, we do not believe that the dollar is going to be dethroned by a BRICS gold-backed currency anytime soon. In order, by the way, just to sew this up, because we got other things to talk about, but in order for the dollar to be dethroned, and Mish Shedlock, by the way, had a good article on this. We've had Mish on before in the past, talking about the global economy in our podcast. But he makes some great points. He said, if you want the yuan to dethrone the dollar, if that's what you think is going to happen, if you think there's going to be a gold-backed yuan or something like this that's going to dethrone the dollar, we got to have several things. You got to have China float the yuan, which ironically it's pegged to the dollar in many ways, in many senses, and so that's kind of ironic. But then China would have to end capital controls. Well, nobody expects to see this anytime soon. They would have to respect property rights, right? And nobody sees this happening anytime soon. China would have to have a bond market, or the BRICS would have to have a bond market big enough to handle being the reserve currency. And China doesn't have a government bond market that would even come close to eclipsing the United States. They would have to inspire global trust in their currency. And some say by backing it with gold or backing it with something that would engender that trust. I'm not so certain that you would gain immediate trust from the world from a communist regime just because it claims to be backing something up with gold. Nobody knows for sure. China would have to be willing to take on trade deficits. You can't be the you can't be the global reserve currency without running deficits. You'd have to do many different things. Okay, so the point is that is the dollar going to be dethroned at some point? Yes, of course. Is it going to be next week? No, that's not even close. These countries don't even get along on so many other topics, right? Yes, they don't like the dollar. Yes, they don't like the dollar standard. Yes, they don't like Washington. But there are so many other issues that they argue on that it's difficult to imagine them coming together and doing anything that could put a real meaningful dent into the United States dollar based upon the fact that they're at loggerheads on so many other important political, security, and economic issues. Okay, so anyway, BRICS meeting this week. We do not expect a gold-backed currency to be announced. We do not expect any kind of death knell for the dollar to come out of this meeting. That is our take.